Okay. So Kristen, we're ready to roll. If you can see it. So it's so weird watching myself on a 3-second delay. So the website, we switched to a new web server, and I don't know if anybody's been on the website lately, but it's much faster than it used to be. So we're hoping this makes Kristen's updating process when we get ready for the board meeting a lot quicker as well.
Yeah, it's on there now.
Fantastic.
Super fast.
Yeah, the website looks good, I think. It's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a lot of hard work to get it. I mean, there's always so much behind the scenes stuff to get that up. Hi, Harmeet, just so you know, we're live streaming already. We haven't started the meeting. Just
Okay. Hello.
let you know. Hi.
So what'd you switch to?
We're on Amazon Web Services. It's nice. They have a lot of the WordPress stuff that we're using just native right as part of the server. So we didn't even have to install a new virtual server. It's just part of it. So
I don't know if anybody else saw it, but there was a nice article with Harmeet's parents in the paper. Was it a week, well, maybe 2 or so ago? I read it. I saw the name and location, and then they mentioned Harmeet as a child. So it was nice to see.
Yeah, what was funny is I didn't even know they were doing that. I was working in my home office all day. I came upstairs and said, "Hey, did somebody stop by?" And my parents said, "Oh yeah, the photographer was here." For what? Oh, the article. Again, what? So, yeah, it was just a surprise to anyone. But it was done very nicely.
I'm just gonna wait for a few more trustees before we get going.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, we have a few more minutes before 6. I'm on a new computer, everybody. So if you have any audio issues or anything weird happens, just please let me know. Hi, Michelle. We're live on YouTube. We haven't started the meeting yet.
Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Now I can hear you too.
Great. It's easy to say, oh, it takes a few seconds for this all to get going. I'm amazed that the technology works at all. It's kind of, we live in the future.
I'm still getting used to a new MacBook, so for work, and it's just different doing Zoom on this than on my tablet.
Yep. Yeah, IT just moved me over to a new laptop, so I'm hoping that the audio is better on this than it has been on the other one. So I'm
not the in and out. You were going in and out with your color.
Everything. It was just acting really, really weird. I mean, and who knows what that's all about.
Yeah.
So.
Use fatigue.
Yeah.
Really.
The equipment and the people.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Chris.
Christine.
Hey.
I don't know if people saw the weather. Someone tipped me off, so I actually watched the weather today. But could be something coming Wednesday into Thursday.
Yes.
So I think I was driving around in my car, and the governor was giving a news conference, and he started talking about the weather. He said 6 to 12 inches. That's when I knew I had to
Wow.
figure out what's going on, possibly. But I think they're going to update the forecast tomorrow, but
They can feel free to miss me with that storm. That would be great.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, we had a conversation about what a delayed opening means, or a snow day would mean in the current paradigm.
Right. Probably not much, right?
Yeah. I mean, just
yeah. And you have the little Bobcat machine. Maybe I should. I don't think it's a Bobcat, but that little machine. You haven't purchased it yet, have you?
it's not here yet. No, it's being manufactured and shipped. We just keep
Okay.
refresh on the update.
All right, I think we're ready to go here. Got everyone? Thanks. Good evening, everyone. It's the December meeting of the Board of Trustees. I want to call it to order. It's 6:05. So the first, we want to check public participation.
Yes. So let me check that now. I have nothing.
You have nothing. Okay, great. So then we'll go right into the previous meeting minutes. People can take a quick look at those if you haven't already. Okay, I'll accept the motion on the minutes.
So moved.
Great, second. Michelle, great. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed or extensions? Okay, meeting minutes passed. We'll go right into the financial report, page 7 through 14. Treasurer's update.
We're tracking under budget as we've been reporting. Nothing's really changed since very much since last month.
Okay.
We are going to be under in some of the smaller revenue lines, but we're underspending in almost all of the expense lines. So I don't anticipate any problems.
I had a question on the underspending. I was looking at the personnel line. How far under our personnel are we? Like as a percentage? I'm trying to find it here.
Well, we're at spending as of November 30th is about almost 38%, where it should be roughly 42%.
Okay, so
five months into the year.
Okay. So it's a little bit under then.
It's a little bit under, right? And I'm assuming, Jeff, we've got some open positions that we had budgeted for that we haven't filled.
You got it. It's exactly the cause.
Yeah.
And that's obviously, the biggest expenditure in the budget.
Right. No, definitely. Yeah.
So I have a question about that. So if you budget for salaries and that amount isn't expended, I assume that can you carry it over to next year in a general fund? How does that, what happens to that money?
It precisely goes in. Oh, sorry, Sherry, go ahead.
No,
Okay,
go
sorry.
ahead.
So, I apologize. We're still figuring ourselves out. So yes, any unexpensed money is then moved into the general fund of the library, and then to move it out of the general fund and be spent in future years takes action of the board.
Yeah, in effect, we would have, net income, right? We'd have income in excess of expenses, and that would go to basically the fund balance. I don't know if we use that term, but and then it's available for spending in future years, or for savings, for putting away for a rainy day.
And is there a requirement that the fund balance be under a certain percentage of the overall budget? I know the school district has one, but I'm not sure if it's the same for the library.
So school districts have a legal requirement that is about the size of the fund balance. Libraries do not. When we are audited by the comptroller, it needs to be reasonable. And trying to say, well, what's reasonable mean? They're not going to tell you. Basically, they just want, if it's excessive, if it's not entailed, the comptroller would want to see a plan. We want to see some concrete plan about what you intend to use the money for. Thus,
Great.
The long range plan.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we
have questions on that?
Can we ask questions? Is this time where I ask questions about the warrants too, or is that?
Sure. I
Okay,
think-
so
yeah.
I emailed Jeff that I was going to ask about this, just so I didn't catch me. So I actually review the warrants quickly. It's just a habit from the school board where they said either look for large amounts that you can't figure out what it went to, or for odd patterns, like a name that keeps coming up. And for example, in the district, it would be athletic official or whatever. But anyway, so I look for just general patterns, and I noticed that some money was sent to a fencing company. So.
Absolutely.
You just
We
tell
had-
tell us what happened.
I can tell, we have a back area next to the staff kitchen
Okay.
where the staff usually eats. Well, with the library being closed, patrons were coming into that, and the back door is usually during the day unlocked, so they could have access into the back area of the library without anybody seeing. So we put in a fence.
Okay.
And they're the same people that did the fence for the Ian Bogle Memorial Patio that's in the front of the library.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if the public actually looks at the warrants, but I figured in case someone did.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions on the financial report, treasurer's update?
I think Mary was saying something.
Okay.
Maybe her audio's not on.
Oh,
Yes, Mary, we can see that you're speaking, but we can't hear you.
I get muted, yeah.
It looks like she might have an unstable connection. She's kind of frozen.
I think she said, go ahead.
And- Okay. Yeah, feel free to put it in the chat too if you want, Mary. Okay, great. Any other questions? Trustees, anything? Okay, great. I'll take a motion to accept the financial report then.
So moved.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, great. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, financial report passes. Personnel report, page 15.
Okay, so you can see here there are a number of filled positions. Some of the open positions that we were talking about are still on my screen. It's above me. Anyway, they're still open, and that's where some of that unexpensed income is coming from. We have 3 new positions that we're seeking to fill right now. I have a part-time library clerk and 2 part-time library pages. One of the pages was promoted. You'll see higher on that list. Was promoted to library clerk, and so now I'm seeking to fill those 2 part-time pages and a part-time clerk position.
So, Jack, I have a question on the positions in the previously approved that are
Yes.
unfilled at this point.
Yes.
Those are all under active recruitment.
They're not all of them. So you can see where we've done some hiring. We were able to hire a part-time library clerk.
I saw that, yeah.
There are 2 temporary librarians that we're hiring instead of the full-time librarian combined position, which is the second position down from the top on that list.
Right.
Librarian full-time. We're holding off hiring that. So we hired 2 temporary librarians to be able to fill in on the weekends, which is really where we needed people right now.
Okay.
We needed some more flexibility, and so we've decided to move that way. So we're not actively recruiting that full-time librarian. We are leaving it on the docket so we can just keep track of that position. There are a number of the pages and clerk positions that we are still actively pursuing, but we've had some issues with the civil service lists.
Okay.
But we have some movement that we were able for part-time positions. You can see from the first position, the library clerk part-time, we actually broke that list and we hired it provisionally. So we went all the way down through the existing list, and there wasn't an interested candidate. There weren't 3 interested candidates on that list. So we broke the list and we hired someone provisionally, and she'll have to take the test when the test is given. Of course, in-person civil service tests haven't been given since before March. So there's just a delay on all of these things. And now, we're starting to see, part-time positions are frequently less desirable than full-time positions. So we have a harder time filling, especially those daytime positions. So we're getting to the point where everybody who's already taken that test is on the list has been exhausted. So now we're moving into a provisional position. So that's what's causing some of that.
Okay.
So I have a question. I believe from the last meeting and the last discussion, there was a need to increase staffing for weekend hours. And we may or may not discuss this later on, but that's based on the current level of services or anticipated additional services, or how, i.e., since this is a moving target, how might that target change?
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
So we're basing that on where we are right now, right?
Okay.
So we are finding ourselves in a situation where we are more frequently having people who are unexpectedly out. This is the term that I'm using lately. They're unexpectedly out. We have not had, a positive case of COVID among the library staff yet, but if you can imagine, if you have a child in school, lots of times children are sent home from their school, and we are having the adults in that household, the employee also not report to work until the child's cleared to return to school. I think just out of a good amount of caution on this. So that has led to where we would normally have, where people were very dedicated to coming in on the weekends, and we run tighter shifts on the weekends. People are just going to be out, and we have to accept that. So that's why we hired for flexibility to do that. And I think that will stand us in good stead no matter what, actually, right now, because it's amazing the varied nature of things that can require people to be out of the library right now. It's kind of surprising.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions on the personnel report? Okay, we don't have to vote on that, right? That's just
I do. I do need the.
I'll make a motion.
You want the three positions? Okay. All right, great. Lisa with the motion. Any second?
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All right, any opposed, abstentions? Personnel report passes. Director's report.
Okay, quickly, super happy to report that the boiler repair was a success. So it went off very, very easily. The mechanics who came in reported that it was a super simple place for the boiler to be. It wasn't in a nasty basement down below with some rickety stairs. They were able to drag the truck right up to it, and they were able to complete it in one day, which is fantastic. Many people didn't even realize that they were there because the boiler room was sealed off and the workers stayed in that area of the building. We didn't even go into that whole section while they were there. And the repair happened quickly and painlessly. So that was super nice. We are still planning to talk about, planning to start fines on January 1st. So that time is coming. You may have heard that we reinstituted the billing cycle. So people who have items that are long long have started to receive bills, and that is driving some of those people to return those items. And we're, for now we're saying, hey, if you bring them in before the end of the year, not only will we wipe out the bill, but there are also no fines associated with that item as well. So it's actually a relatively low number of people who have bills from the library. So we're pleased about that. And we have been getting that out as much as we can to get out the idea that fines are coming back on January 1st. So lots of programming. I want to talk about virtual programming. There's a lot of conversations to be had about where we're putting our efforts in virtual programming. I think we've been very successful with the more local the programming. Adults like to have a little bit interactive. What the librarians are finding out is that children's programming needs to have some sort of physical component. So even in winter, right now we're running there's a scavenger hunt on the outside of the library. You can do a virtual component, but it has to have some sort of physical component too. Just for kids, it just seems to be super important that there's some kind of activity. So we'll have another story walk that will go up for the winter down at Elm Avenue Park, and those are the type of activities where they can be separated and passive. Not necessarily everybody has to be there at the same time, but that's the kind of programming that we're focused on for kids right now. So I want to talk about the outreach. We're still having some good contacts with the schools. Of course, as more of the schools go virtual, our visits, which are already largely virtual, we'll move online with them as well, which I'm happy to see. We did add some of those did some new library things. Lots of the library things have been pulled back because they required to be put on people's faces or have contact with bodies that we weren't necessarily comfortable with. The Wi-Fi hotspots and the Chromebooks continue to be very popular, and we've added some digital video converters. So those are we advertised those out in one of our email newsletters, and the number of holds went way up on those. So we had to get some more in the building to fill the holds that were required for that. So maybe right now is a good time for people to work on converting those old videos to DVD and get them up and get them digital. In anticipation of the fines coming back in January, we have been approved to work with KeyBank as for our merchant services account, so we can accept credit cards. We're not, we're cautious about cash right now, so we're going to be pushing people towards using credit cards, and then already if people want to pay with credit cards, they can pay their fines through an online portal through the Upper Hudson website, but we think it's important that we have that in the library as well. So that's all in progress. And then if you want, we can talk about the numbers a little bit. The circulation, we were down a total of 23.3%. So, a little bit more than 20% over circulation for last year, which I think, again, I'm super proud of the fact that we're pushing out that much with door count being as down as far as it is. That's just a sign of how much curbside is still our major push. We certainly have can have high numbers of people in the library depending on the day and time, but a lot of people are opting for curbside pickup. I'm getting a lot of comments from people that they're very pleased with that service. Please don't take curbside service away. And you have to explain to them we have no intention of getting rid of curbside service right now. Obviously, audiobooks are doing better than some of our other other formats. But if you can look down the bottom on my circulation report, we have e-materials. We have in new categories down in the bottom, and you can see that ebook use is up 41%, e-audiobook up 14.5%, e-magazines are up 10%. So we're just really seeing some major increases in those. And I see I have a mistake on my report where I swapped November 19th and November 20th. We have a major increase in streaming video as well. So the money that we're putting towards those e-services are paying off. And I think there's certainly a large segment of the population that are more comfortable using everything exclusively e. We have the curbside available for those people, and then folks can come in and browse as well right now. So are there any questions?
Jeff, I just wanted to ask about flow of new materials and whether you feel like they've come back to previous pre-pandemic times, or is it still on the slower side?
Are you talking about in terms of a publication?
Releases? Yeah.
No, it's nothing like a normal flow. Certainly, there are some larger titles that are coming out. A lot of the publishing industry continues to delay. For instance, so I read in science fiction and fantasy. There are 2 new science fiction and fantasy books on the shelf right now. They're just some are out, of course, but most of them are just not there. Many authors and publishers are just choosing to just wait to publish those items. And originally we were reading about this in the spring. They're like, oh, there's going to be a real jam up in the fall as everybody waits through the summer and the releases in the fall. But now they're just waiting on those even further. So I guess they don't age like a movie does necessarily. So if an author needs to hold off, maybe that's just speculation on my part. But we are seeing certainly, James Patterson is still coming out with his James Patterson novels, but there are many other authors that are not coming out with them nearly at the pace that we would expect. And obviously DVD releases are also delayed because the movies aren't coming out, then also the DVDs aren't being released. So how the new release streaming is going to impact the DVD market, and that will impact us, I have no idea. You have Warner Brothers releasing everything next year straight to HBO Max. That is going to change how the movie ecosystem works. So we'll have to see if there's long-term impacts of that for us.
Jeff, have you heard from patrons that they are looking for new material and aren't getting it though? Or
I think if there's a particular item that someone's looking for, we can get it. If it's out, we're getting it, and that we're getting it to them. And right now it's frankly, circulation is down across the system so much that it's a halcyon days for the request system right now. If you want to request a physical item, now's your chance, man. It is there's a lot of circulation not happening right now. So there's a lot of items all around the system that are available to us, and the courier system is working. It is delayed. It is slower a little bit by a couple days than normal, but the items are still coming, and that really our patrons are doing very well. Our patrons were more requesting than many other patrons across the system. Our patrons were already in that mode and always have been since I've been here 20 years. They still are the most requesting library in the area, and this is standing them in good stead as they're able to get the items that they want and have them come in.
I just wanted to mention that we're also having some shipment delays from our vendor. They of course have a big warehouse, and they might have some supply issues in their warehouse. So there are many new releases are not coming to us the day that they're due. So if you're seeing delays in getting new things, it may be on the supply side. And we've spoken with our vendor about that, and they're aware and they're trying to address it on their end.
I mean,
I think on top of that, you have the piece of the mail system is just that much slower. I mean, I know I do that as part of my job, and this time of year is normally bad anyway. It's really bad right now. So there's your plug for order your stuff right now.
Yeah.
Right after the meeting.
That's like, good. Go ahead, Mark.
Thanks, Catherine.
I was going to say you can get the #1 bestseller in the New York Times list. Right, it was right there on the shelf. I walked in and there it was. So, a couple of things, Jeff. I know you mentioned programming, and at the bottom of our packets, we oftentimes get posters for the different programs that are running. And I just want to give a shout out. I'm not sure who does them, but they're very colorful and lovely. I'm not sure if they're done in house or.
They are. It's all.
I saw a smile over there.
Yeah, no, Kristen does a great job of creating that. That we hired a public information person and didn't realize we were getting a graphical person too. So it's an awful nice bonus for us.
Okay. I do have another item I want to bring up, but I think maybe we'll wait because I think there's another big thing in your discussion, your report that's coming up. So I'll wait on that.
Okay. All right. So I'm good with the director's report unless there's other questions.
Okay, great. UHLS report?
No report this month because we opted, as we often do, to not meet in December. So nothing to report.
Okay, we'll go right into new business then. So the phase reopening plan and the triggers for the phase triggers.
Okay, so I just thought it was an opportune time for us to have this discussion. The hospitalization rates and the infection rates are higher now than they were in March when we originally, certainly in April after we closed the library. I think we've learned a lot since then about transmissibility, but I think it's an opportune time for us to have this discussion. When we originally created our phased reopening plan, the phase initiators between phase 2 and phase 3 were that we would move in accordance with the best guidelines available in coordination with UHLS and other regional libraries. So that's, given that some of our other area libraries have begun to pull back from more open to curbside only, I thought it was an ample opportunity for us to have this discussion. Some libraries have opted to have that tied to the infection rate. The microcluster focus, the way the state is doing things now, is working with these yellow, orange, and red designations, which integrates a lot of different, metrics into that rather than just a single metric. So I'm proposing that we are, just generally are using that orange metric as a guideline for when we might move back, pull back from having people in the library move back to curbside service.
And I would agree, we lack definite guidelines from the state for libraries in particular. So really, those are the only guidelines we have from the state to follow. I think that waiting till we go to orange level seems appropriate.
Any other comments on that? I think I agreed with that as well. I think obviously if there's something if they change the designations again, we can revisit it, because they're kind to just change things state level. So, but I think at this point, I think going the orange would be go to curbside only, I think is the way to go.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's, I don't think that we need to change this aspect of the phase reopening plan. I think there's, we are going through this document. I think there's some updates that we need to do as far as the services that we provide in different phases. As again, we know so much more than we knew in March and April and May about how to operate. So I think this leaves us a little bit of wiggle room if, if we're in yellow and a neighboring community goes into red. That's experience that some other libraries have had, and they've chosen to go to curbside at that point. So I like that we have some flexibility to do that. But I think as a general guideline, the orange seems to be the.
And just to confirm, we've had no positive cases with any library staff. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep. And that's,
That's great.
It's fantastic. I knock on wood every time we talk about that. So I think clearly what we're doing inside the library is good. I think our sanitizing procedures are good. I think of critical importance is the masks and the hand sanitizing and social distancing in the library. That seems, keeping those numbers low. And that's where I appreciate the flexibility. If if the numbers start to go up and we're not moved into an orange phase, we might slide back to 15 or 10 people allowed in the library at a time. I know some other libraries, they're also meeting tonight, so I don't want to anticipate what they're doing, but some of our neighboring libraries are going to slide back to limiting how many people are allowed in the building at a time. So that's a flexibility that we have, and I appreciate the flexibility for that.
So in terms of in-person browsing, have you had many instances where people had to wait in order to get in?
It's really that happens mostly on Saturdays, other than an occasional day after a long weekend or something like that. They really isn't a feature of the weekdays. This is the sort of the sharp end of the stick, or the staff that are there on Saturdays, which is why we're trying to flood Saturdays with some more resources for the folks that are there, because they really don't have I am typically not there on a Saturday. So the sort of admin staff, a lot of the folks that are just in the building and available to help aren't necessarily there on the weekends. So we're putting more staff people there just so there's some more resources, which of course seems a little counterintuitive when we're trying to keep the numbers of people in the building low. But there just needs to be a little bit more support, or there needs to be some folks around. And even when people are waiting on the weekends, mostly they're not an individual person is not waiting longer than 5 or 10 minutes. The total time that people might be waiting to come in can go for an hour or a couple hours, where there's a line of people that are waiting to come in. And of course, as winter happens, that's a stressor, because people don't want to wait outside if it's raining, if it's cold. I get it. But I think it's just it's important that we limit how many people are in the library, and given that, in addition to the micromanagement of the behaviors of folks that are in the library, and is very necessary and continues to be very necessary. So that that too, if there's too many people running around in there, then it's a little bit harder to keep track of where people are, and that they're complying with our masks protocols coming into the library. So, I don't like having people wait outside, but I don't have a better answer right now.
Okay, any other discussion on that or thoughts? People are generally comfortable with that orange? Seeing some head nods.
So Jeff, with the current color coding metric, we don't get any sense of how close we are to that switch from one to the other, or do we?
No, we had a really clear idea, because it was based on a single metric, which is the positivity rate of the test. So people, a lot of the other libraries had pinned their plan right to that one metric, which again may prove to be smart, or maybe the way we're doing it is smart. But they're they pin to a specific metric, so they're moving back to curbside right now, because their metrics, the positivity rate is above 3%, which would have moved into a different phase previously. So no, I don't know, other than to watch Dan McCoy and try to see, what he's saying. No, I don't know all the factors enough to know how close we're getting.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Jeff, are you looking for a vote on that, or are you?
I don't think so. I think, if you guys if we're at consensus at this, I'm perfectly comfortable with the language as it exists, using the best guidelines available in coordinating with other UHLS libraries. We'll make that decision. I just wanted to have this conversation to let you know, I was thinking that orange was the right level. Some other libraries in the region have pegged that to the red level rather than the orange level. I would feel more comfortable having that be at orange. And I think that makes sense because given that we can provide, it's not perfect service, but we can provide a very good service with curbside. We know how to do that. And then if we move back to curbside, the thing is, as infection rates and those other metrics get more intense, as we move into orange, that allows me to have more of the staff not in the building, right? So I can have some people work from home. It just decreases the density of people in the building overall, which is obviously the goal.
Okay, great. So let's go on to the building committee update then. Talk about the boiler replacement project.
Okay, so I'll take a stab at this, and Harmeet, you jump in whenever you want to and tell me to be quiet. So we have completed the boiler repair. So our patchwork of replacing that section of the boiler has been completed. Thanks to an awesome tip, and we were happy to have Bork Mechanical came in and did that job for us. They did a great job. Boiler's working, tested and thoroughly working. So we're very happy about that. Separate from that, the boiler still needs to be replaced. It is still old and it still needs to be replaced at some point going forward. We have bought ourselves time to be able to make this decision not under the gun, which is wonderful. So we had a conversation at with the building committee to talk about how we might go forward with the process of getting that project together. And this is a project that is in full measure of state education department approval. We need to have an engineer and or architect put together a plan that would then get submitted to state education department for approval. There's a back and forth. So it's a full blown project, even though a relatively small and containable version of that. When SED and the engineers are going to, whoever we choose as our engineer, when they're looking at the boiler room, there are going to be some upgrades that have to happen to that room in order to bring everything up to current code, which is what you'd need to replace the boiler. So we are laying the groundwork for that path forward. And I think what I heard from the committee was that there was interest in selecting the professional design team that might move forward with that. So that we can put together a proposal and come back with some kind of idea of what the cost might be for the full board before we decide to embark on anything.
Yeah, that's everything that I recall.
Okay. I was like, oh, did I miss something? But that's generally where we are. So, I think there's the next step would be for the building committee to look at, maybe put out an RFP and select, work on selecting a design team for the project.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds great. Any questions on that? Okay, now we have 3 different policies we're going to go through. The harassment policies, the sexual harassment policy, and the collection development policy. So they've been, my understanding is these policies have been vetted with at least the first two with the attorneys, and Charmaine looked at them, I looked at them, and we could just put them up and see if people have any questions. So let's first start with the harassment policy on page 23 to 25, I think is the numbers.
So this is a policy that is written largely by our attorney, presented to us, and then was reviewed by the policy committee. There were some changes for clarity in there. It was resubmitted back to our attorney, and both our policy committee and the attorney have signed off on this.
I have just a quick question on the process. Did the I don't want to. Did the attorney bill us on for that second review?
Yep.
Okay, so I made some changes, and I appreciate you all being open to that. But I suddenly thought of this afternoon. It's like, oh man, we paid for that. But okay. But I'm pleased and the policy overall. Well, that was.
Okay, yeah, I've looked at it a couple of times. It seems pretty standard. I don't see any huge variation from the norm here. So do you want to let's take them one by one? So on the harassment policy, the update, I'll ask for a motion on this version.
So moved.
Okay, second. Carolyn, great. Any all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Okay, any opposition, abstention? Okay, that policy passes. Going to the sexual harassment policy, which is the next one in the package here. Page 26.
Yep.
Again, it's been through the same process, right? So.
Yep, and this is, we used to have a single harassment policy that included sexual harassment and what we're calling now discriminatory harassment.
Right.
With the changes in state law, we felt it was better to separate those two things out. So now we have explicitly a sexual harassment policy and a discriminatory harassment policy as well.
Okay, any questions on that policy? Okay, I'll ask for a motion for approval of the sexual harassment policy for this version.
So I'll make a motion to approve the sexual harassment policy.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michelle. Any second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Charmaine, all those in favor, signify by raising your hand. Any opposition? Abstention? Okay, that motion carries as well. Okay, the next one is the collection development policy.
Okay, this one is one of our internal policies. So we're changing the name to collection development and maintenance policy. I think collection development policy is a little bit of library lingo. We're trying a lot of the work that the policy committee did in this was to try to make the policy a little bit more understandable just to the general public and make it a little less library-ese, which I appreciated. Changes are noted in there from the policy that was.
I did have a question on page 36, right under statement on access. We cross out everything that had to do with patrons requesting that resources be withdrawn. Does that happen?
Oh, it absolutely happens. So not often, I have to say, in our community, it does not happen very often, but it does happen. When it happens, the process is it goes to me. I look at I carefully consider the resource. I look at where it was reviewed, all of the metrics that we have listed up above in the top of why we selected something originally. And then I make a ruling on whether I feel the resource is appropriate for the library. And then the appeal of my decision is to the board. And that's the one that doesn't happen. I don't think we've done that in quite a while where, if I make a decision about a particular resource and a patron still feels so very, very adamant about that and wants to have it reconsidered by the board, they're entitled to have that item come up in front of the board and we would take a look at it. Then I would be presenting as the item's advocate because I'll have ruled on that item and I would be telling you, why we want to keep that, and the individual can tell you why that resource does not belong in the library.
Okay.
And Michelle, that was actually just moved. So you'll see that the reason it's cut off, it's on 36 is because it was moved up to what the current page 35. So it was like a cut and paste. So it's actually still in the policy. It just
That's
got
what I
moved.
was just going to say. Oh, I just noticed you just moved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was interested though, just curious to see if it ever happened. So that's interesting that you said, yes, it has happened. So
It happens occasionally. Yeah. And not in a very long time has an item actually been removed. But, there's, we take a careful look at some of this stuff and sometimes there are, there would be reasons to remove something from the library's collection, but
okay.
I find that hard.
Okay, any further questions on that policy rewrite? Okay, I'll accept the motion for adoption.
So moved.
Charmaine, any second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Carolyn.
All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Any opposed, abstentions? Okay, that policy passes as well. Okay, records.
Mark, can I just say before we move off of policies, there are the actual copies should be just cleaned up. I know there's that, for example, sexual harassment policy where it talks about, it says the current page 27, hostile work environments underlined for some reason. And I think there's inconsistencies between the first letter caps when it says Board of Trustees. I think sometimes those words all appear in lowercase in some of the longer policies. I have to double check that. It should be, and in most cases, it's the first letters cap B and T. But I just double checked, so like the not that we care, but I'm grammatical check. But I know that
Okay.
it's underlined in the sexual harassment, so the actual copy should just be checked.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. No.
When we move to put them up on the website, we'll have Kristen take a run through them and make
Yeah.
sure that we're in compliance. Thank you. That's great.
Okay, records and retention schedule. Page.
So we did not include the 187 pages of the retention schedule. We have it as an addendum to this on
Thank you for
the
that.
website. Yes. So you really, this is a requirement of New York State that that we adopt this resolution. So I need someone to do that, but you need to do that.
So this is the state requirement on the record retention policy, disposition schedule.
Right.
Local
This
government records.
dictates how long we have to keep our certain records of certain types, how long we have to keep them according to the government regulations.
Right. Okay, I'll take a motion on that as well.
Move to accept.
Great, Carolyn, second. Okay, Lisa, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. And opposed, abstention. Okay, so that passes as well. Okay, great. And that 187 page document will be available if people want to look at it somewhere.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's very, very available right on the state website, but we'll also make sure it's a part of our website as well.
Okay, awesome. Okay, the healthcare invoice.
So every year, just so you know, when we get the new healthcare rates and we have to pre-fund certain of the health savings accounts and the flex spending accounts for Jager and Flynn, who is our healthcare broker. So this is the pre-fund amount every year. And the bill never gets here in time because of the time of open enrollment. It's never here in time to make it onto the bill schedule. So in December, I bring this invoice to you for payment.
Okay, any questions on the invoice for $13,760.24? Okay, I'll accept the motion to pay this invoice. Need a motion for that?
Make a motion to approve the invoice.
Great. Harmeet, second, please.
Second.
Caroline, okay, great. All those in favor, signify by raising your hand. Any opposed, abstention? Okay, that motion passes as well. Emergency patron conduct policy.
So many policies. Sorry about this. So this is, there's really only one change. It's on page 39 in the sort of the second bullet. We were just talking about as winter's coming on, people are coming with gloves on. We're just saying, this seems to be an area of confusion. We're just saying to people, hey, if you want to have rubber gloves on, that's fine. Just run them under the sanitizer. You can put some sanitizer on your gloves and or if you have winter gloves, we'll just ask you to take those off and sanitize your hands.
And you're always providing the sanitizer.
The sanitizer is always there, and I'll even provide gloves. Like if someone really wants a new fresh pair of gloves, I'll give them that too. You know, just like we hand out masks. It's fine, you know.
Yeah.
If a few more masks get out in the community, I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any questions on that policy change? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve that policy update.
So move.
Okay, any second? Michelle, great. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposition, abstention? Okay, that motion carries as well. Any other new business that people have? Okay. Moving into old business, long range plan steering committee update. There's a
Yeah, I was realizing just before this meeting, I can't find my notes from the last call.
Okay.
Meeting with Paul in a couple of days. And I
Thursday.
believe the plan is for him to provide us with an updated set of schematics based on the feedback we gave him last time. Okay.
That's my understanding as well. Yes.
Yeah, so last time we had talked to him about taking the multi-phased sort of series that he had given us and breaking it up into a smallish project, right, and then a larger project, right, and the smallish project being a combination of really things that the patrons and librarians had deemed as high priority, right, but trying to limit the scope of that to something like just a rough order number, like a $2 million sort of price tag, right, to at least set a boundary on it, and then slide the larger projects to a phase 2 type approach. So Paul's going to come back to us hopefully later this week with his first take at what could be done in that first phase and what would be pushed to the second phase, so that we can then bring that to the larger board and talk about it some more in detail. Jeff, anything I missed?
No, that's exactly my understanding.
Okay. And at some point that we'll bring that back to the board. And I also understand that there's a services part of it too, right? The long range plan. So
That's correct.
That'll get merged together at some point.
Right. And so we're, the services plan we've had written for quite a while. And we knew that
Right.
always a little bit, it depended on what was going to happen with the building. As far
Yeah.
as services, those two things are separate, but not completely separable.
Mhm.
So we were kind of waiting on that, but the services plan is pretty ready to go. I think, Catherine has taken, Catherine and Chris are going to take a look at that again, sort of mid-COVID, take a peek at that. We don't want it to be the long-range plan. We don't want it to be the COVID long-range plan, but it's a little hard for us to disinclude the experiences that we're having now from that plan completely. So
Sure. Okay.
I think that's smart, especially, even economically, the effects of this will linger for quite a while. So I think it's nice. I'm pleased that you're pursuing with the architect several layers in terms of costs and scope.
yeah, I think there are, really fiscal realities that maybe we don't fully comprehend or understand yet, that maybe we can, as we begin to come out of this, we can have those really good discussions about. So.
Great. Any other long-range planning questions or discussion topics trustees have?
Nope.
Okay, great. Any other old business? Or old or future business? Any other things that people want to talk about tonight?
Well, the only thing I just wanted to say, I thought it was an excellent idea to have that winter scavenger hunt for families. I saw that at the bottom of this and I was like, wow, that was really, really a good idea. It seems like such a simple thing, but just a great idea. Thanks for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, the librarians have really been putting themselves forward to try to figure out what is it that, especially kids, it's so hard on children right now, and you just try to figure out what can we do? How can we interact with them? That's not in all of the ways that we're normally used to interacting with them, right? Our librarians do wonderful live story times with rooms full of children. That is just not what we're doing right now. So I think they're really they're working very hard to be creative about how we interact with the public. So thanks for that. I think that means a lot.
Great.
Yeah.
I have a question. Again, I'm the newest member here. I'm still learning and have so much more to learn. But my question is, has the trustees in the last 5 years had a discussion about fines and being fine-free permanently? And the only reason I was, because I've been reading all the, those news we get, and I think it came, and Jeff made a report about, how soon things actually came in when you didn't have the fines. And so future business. So my question is, have you discussed it at length recently, or even the last X number of years, and down the road a piece, if you haven't? And I don't have a position either way. It's just kind of piqued my interest. Down the road a piece, it might be worth having this discussion, unless you've already have.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the discussion. I think it's worthy of keeping it on the future business agenda, though. Because as things change, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens, once we turn fines back on, and what our people, is going to a rush of material comes back in, or how that works. But I think, we could definitely have the discussion again. I think it evolves over time,
Yeah, we absolutely. Sorry, go ahead, Caroline.
Oh, no, sorry, Jeff, you might not be saying this, but I think that it's worthy of putting it, in the future, maybe a few months, because we now we'll have actual data on how it plays out.
Right.
I mean, before it's been a conceptual conversation, and now we'll have an idea of how it would actually work for us. So I think that's one of the strange pandemic things that has worked in our favor.
Right.
Yep. And I think that was going to be my answer to Charmaine. Thank you. I think you're all saying exactly the same thing. We have absolutely had some very in-depth discussions on this in the feels like forever ago, but if we looked at months, it probably actually not that many months ago, but just feels like a really long time ago, because we were moved into fine-free due to circumstances, and so like Carolyn was saying, this was a very theoretical thing, and it's now very practical, and it I will, well, anyway. Everybody knows my position on this. We'll have more talks about this later.
Well, I also have never been through a budget cycle or budget planning, so I don't know, if it's before or after, whenever the next budget planning, because I know that it's concluded as a line, fines as income. So I'm not pushing it either for this budget cycle or not. Again, being new and learning so much still still a lot to learn. I leave the timing up to the trustees, the more experienced trustees advise on that. But and also in the discussions of equity and inclusion, which have been raised to the forefront. And I know the library's been doing a lot of programming, and then reading some of the material from that we get funneled through us. It's just like, wow, this is very interesting discussion if people place it into the idea of equity and inclusion and how it affects who uses the library and how much people use it based on just fines. So I just have found that intriguing. So that's why I raised it.
Great. And we're, so budget cycle is right now, as Sherry mentioned in her report, she and I are going to be working on those preliminary numbers imminently. Well, probably not before the holidays, but we're really going to be getting on this quickly to have this back so we can meet with the finance committee, get our budget put together, and absolutely is a part of that. And it's, it's a non-zero number, though this year it's a zero number. So, we'll look at that number as we move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, close to zero, definitely. Okay. All right, great. Any other discussion items that the board has for tonight?
Jeff,
Okay.
I just wanted to bring up where we were with collective bargaining. We had been talking about restarting that conversation a little earlier, and I'm kind of lost track of where we are with it. So.
Thank you. So we have a conversation. I've had a conversation with our attorney. I had a preliminary conversation with the unit president. They are interested in moving quickly or soonly on this as well. So we're right in it. I think that's going to all be coming together about the same time as the budget.
Okay.
Okay, I'll ask for a check on public participation again.
Okay, thanks. No new messages have come in.
Okay, so I'll take a little bit of personal privilege here to encourage the board members to look at the Friends meeting on December 21st. It's a great group. It's an annual meeting. It's virtual if you have the time to do that. And also wish everyone a very happy holidays in a very strange time. So thanks for all your help here. And it's been a very strange year, but happy holidays to everyone.
Thanks, Mark.
You as well.
Okay.
Actually, Mark, I'm sorry, I had to move. Can you say that about the Friends? Is that streamed? You said something about the Friends meeting.
Yeah, it's on the bottom of the agenda, the December 21st.
If you're interested in coming, just let me know and I'll get you signed up and
Got it. Thank you. I see that now.
Yeah, very, very supportive group. Great. It's been really helpful to the library. Okay, so I'll ask for a motion of adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Great. Second. Okay, Mary, thanks. All in favor? Any opposed?